pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Been a busy couple of weeks, so 3 proposed agenda adjustments. Sorry, I had major dental work in today. I'm still a little numb, but to add an item 8C under action, approve the ASA HVAC engineering proposal. Add item 8D, approve a waiver request for the 5/9/23 school day. And it's listed in the agenda under item 15, executive session under 1 MRSA 4056B, confidential student matters. Is there a second for those agenda changes?
I will second.
Any additions or other suggested adjustments? Okay, all those in favor? Actually, sorry, we'll have to do a roll call voting since we have somebody who had to attend remotely. So Noah.
Aye.
Yes, we need a motion to approve the minutes from April 25th, as presented this is discussion and corrections.
We lost sound, I think.
We're working on it.
Not really. It was great for a second at the beginning.
It's time to go back.
Can you hear us?
Sam gives it a thumbs up.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Noah's not.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we were just about to take a vote on the agenda as presented, but were there any corrections or questions?
We did that in minutes.
Minutes, sorry, yes. Any corrections or questions on the minutes? And we'll go ahead and vote. Noah?
Aye.
Jake? Aye. Evan? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. I would make a motion to approve regular warrant 22, payroll warrant 22, ban warrant 37, fuel warrant 2, and just for our new board members, these are her things that the board has to approve, basically all the checks that go out the door. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We'll take a vote. Noah?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Floor is open for public comment. Is there any public comment? Just go ahead
Hi.
and unmute.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Hi, I have a public comment. Thank you. My name is Emily McIntosh. I have students in the school system and I appreciate the opportunity to participate. My comment pertains to the agenda item you're discussing later on canoe team equipment. And I don't want to get into the background. I'm sure that all of you are somewhat aware that the canoe team program in its current status, suffice to say that the team didn't run this year, but I wanted to take a chance in this public forum to thank really quite deeply Jeff Owen on behalf of our family for his leadership in creating this opportunity for the students of OHS to learn the sport of canoe racing and all of the important safety and life skills that that sport demands. I'll just say it's a really maturing and unique experience that we've been lucky to have at OHS, and say thank you, Jeff, how much we appreciate that. And the second piece of my comment is specific to the agenda item you're discussing later, the equipment itself. I think that we can probably agree that the experience of canoe racing with Jeff can't exactly be replicated, but that doesn't automatically mean that the canoe team can't continue as a sport as OHS. And in order for that to happen, in my opinion, the equipment needs to be kept in good repair while options can be explored to make the team viable within the regulations that have now been brought to light and in some form. And I just want to ask you to consider that in your discussion later, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, go ahead and move on to acknowledgements. Noah? No acknowledgements, Jake?
No, nothing at this time.
I have a couple. First off, I know today was a difficult day. I know today mostly fell on the administrators and the police departments. I just appreciate their hard work. I know the teachers probably will have challenges tomorrow, and I appreciate what they're doing with that too. Don't want to stop there though. I know this past week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and the Atlantic magazine had a very nice section of just little snippets of writers who were thanking teachers and just really reminding people how much teachers change entire trajectories of lives. There were some really profound stories in there of students coming from all kinds of different backgrounds, and yet, you know, they all, you know, were in their 40s and they could remember the name of a teacher in 3rd grade who had changed their whole life trajectory. And so I just wanted to pause and recognize the important stuff that happens in these buildings all the time. Kevin?
I'll just echo that.
Mark?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Meredith?
I had 2 of those items on my list, the teacher appreciation. And I'd like to just expand that out to kind of all of our staff. This is a week we kind of widely celebrate and appreciate the contributions that all of our staff members contribute to our students and their you know, experiences here. And also just a thanks to the parent groups and students who put things together to help our staff feel appreciated this week. So it's nice to live in a community that will do that in such a grand fashion. I know ASA celebrated last week, OMS and OHS are this week, so as a district, we're stretching it out a bit, so that's nice. I just want to add to your thanks about the people who had significant involvement today with us, and that's also the threat assessment team that is beyond our administrators in law enforcement. Our school counselors are key members of that, and they were also a key part of some of our discussion and work today. And I want to welcome and introduce our student board representatives. They're with us today for the first time in a meeting. So Marissa McLaughlin is a junior and joins us as a student board rep, and Dorsa Chavidi is a sophomore and joins us as well. And I wanted to just give them a moment just to introduce themselves, so the board and those on the screen and in the room can just know them and a little bit about what they're involved with. Who wants to start?
Hi, I'm Marissa. I am very excited / nervous to be here. I have listened to a lot of board meetings over Zoom and have loved that this is an opportunity for us to spread our voices. I'm involved in a lot of arts things. I'm in NHS, and I run the Orno Summer Show Choir Camp. I'm very excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Dorsa, and as Marissa said, I'm very excited to be here. And I'm also, as some of you may be aware, I'm also part of the strategic planning committee meetings, and I'm very grateful for that experience as well, because it's another aspect of leadership that I'm very interested in. Like Marissa, we are both ASA show choir directors, and I'm also part of GWD, and I also play in the Bangor Symphony Youth Orchestra, Wind Ensemble, and I've also volunteered with the Young People's Caucus, and I'm also in NHS.
Welcome. We're happy that you're both here and that you're excited to be here.
Thank you.
We hope it remains so. So thank you for your willingness to serve in this role and represent your fellow students. Those are all the acknowledgements I have for tonight.
Okay, next up, we have reports, principal reports. Start with Carrie at ASA.
Well, good evening, everyone. When I was putting together this board report, it's hard to believe that the end of the school year is in sight, and some of the really amazing things that have already taken place in the month of April and all the things that lie ahead that are new for me and will be the first time, but I'm really excited to experience. So some really big shout outs to Jess Moore and the kindergarten through grade 3 students for an amazing choral concert that just turned out wonderfully back in April. I know we had some concerns over seating and making sure everyone that wanted to attend could attend, but in the end, I think families were very happy with the production and how things turned out, and just did just an over the top job with props and decorating and how she put together the whole production. It was pretty amazing. Also, big shout outs to Angie McLaughlin and Suzanne Neville for their production of 33 Little Pigs, and all of the grade 4 and 5 students who were really stepping up and stepping out there and trying on some acting roles. They kept us laughing the whole time. It was just a wonderful production to see. And then, as we've already mentioned with Teacher Appreciation Week, shout out to the ASA PTO and their coordination with all the families. I was thoroughly just overwhelmed by the sheer love and support they kept sending the teachers each day, every week, showing up with more and more treats and letting them know how much they're appreciated. So shout outs to Susan Franson, Emily Herlihy, Heather Dunn-Levesque for their daily enthusiasm to get that work done. And then, of course, with today, in the events of today, I would just like to give a final shout out to Lisa Earhart, who has put together some wonderful materials for our teachers to be able to utilize tomorrow with our students, should they need to, in processing anything regarding the school closure today. The only other thing that I'll just take a moment and highlight from my board report, and of course my dogs are getting very excited at this time, I don't know if you can hear them, hopefully not, is about the Massachusetts Reading Association Conference we were able to attend during the last week of April. We were able to bring 6 teachers. It was Angie McLaughlin, Castine Berry Grant, Olivia Murphy, Sarah Kreutz, Linda Manning, Sierra Towers, along with Susan Smith and myself. We had an absolutely fantastic time learning the 2 days that we were in Quincy, Massachusetts. The 2 strands you might remember from Susan or I mentioning it previously, but the 2 strands of the conference were around DEI focused pieces of literature and curriculum and how to assess curriculum work for anti-racist material. And the other strand of that work was around the science of reading and had wonderful keynote presenters that were giving us opportunities to learn to implement some of these things or re-implement some of these things in our classrooms. So we had a really great amount of learning that took place, and the teachers that attended are very eager to share this information with the rest of the ASA staff. So I will end there.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Actually, I got one. Brian, Carrie, did you attend any of the sessions at that conference around phonics? And if you did, could you tell me a little bit about what the presenters were instructing teachers on how to teach phonics?
Sure. Susan actually attended more of those focused conferences than I did. I was leaning more towards the DEI focused and the literacy coaching concepts that were being presented. However, the one session that I was sitting in on, it was really talking about going back to make sure we're focused and have a scope and sequence around phonemic awareness for our most youngest learners. We're finding that because there's kind of been a step away and more of a focus on whole language, that some of the youngest learners aren't as strong in those areas, and that's impacting their fluency to read as they move into the upper grades.
Thank you. I see Susan is on the call. I don't know if Susan, I know it's not your week to present, but if you had anything you could add on that, that would be much appreciated.
Sure. I attended several of those breakout sessions or options around phonics and phonemic awareness, and so did some of our teachers. And one of the biggest takeaways for me too was the idea that we really need to help kids just play with sound and hear sound. So one of our kindergarten teachers uses the word ear exercises. And partially we think because of some masking and the coverings of mouths that some of those sounds and how we form those sounds have gotten muffled for our kids, even into some of the later stages of elementary school or primary elementary school. So really circling back to helping make sure kids can hear the sounds and form the sounds, as well as making those connections to what those sounds look like in print. And a lot of work around just making some slight changes. One example for is when I taught first grade, we used word boxes, which was a box that was the shape for each letter in the word. So said would have SAID shape, a tall box for the letter D and short boxes for the SAI. And that's changed to something called Elkonian boxes now, where you hear the sounds in said, said, which are 3 sounds. So you would have 3 boxes, and work with the kids to see that the middle sound is kind of a surprise spelling for the sound with the AI for said. So some real concrete ways to take some of the research that's been done by fantastic neuroscientists and make it practical for classrooms. So.
Thank you. Was there any discussion on, I mean, I know certainly that COVID and the masking brought on particular challenges for phonics for sure, but in any of the sessions that you attended, was there any discussion about how perhaps moving away from phonics over the last 20 or so years, that might have not been the best move ever? Was anyone talking about that at all?
There was conversation about that. I think right now, some people are getting a little concerned that there's such a push for phonics and phonemic awareness that maybe we're getting away. The pendulum might be going too fast the other way. So trying to kind of keep things, we do need to do phonics instruction and phonemic awareness, but also help kids understand that listening comprehension is really important. So to share with kids great literature and great conversation, really using higher level vocabulary words, scientific vocabulary words with them, so that they have that listening comprehension that often comes from what we might have considered whole language types of things, is really important. Kids can, if they understand the word, then when they see it, they're much more likely to be able to decode it. So thinking about how we include all of those pieces in the reading instruction is really what I came away with.
And I would say that, Mark, honestly, I would say that the big part of the conversation was that our balanced literacy programs need to be more balanced, which includes the phonemic awareness scope and sequence, but not at the danger of overcorrecting, making sure that we're really finding that middle road.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a brief comment. I meant to add, the choral performance did have a streaming link. And I don't know if that was novel or not, but it was great. My mom was able to watch from Old Town. My mother-in-law, who's currently in New Zealand, was able to watch her grandchildren perform. And I was sitting actually next to the fellow who was running the camera, and he said that the peak viewers were around 400 or 500. So think about the extended family that were able to watch that performance. It was pretty great. So thanks for that.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next up, Richard from the middle school.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to be here in person tonight. Seems like it's been a long time since we had this opportunity. But I wanted to start with teacher appreciation and recognize the OMS teachers for their hard work, their collaboration, their support for students, and everything that they do each day. Makes coming to school to learn and to work a pleasure. So hats off to OMS teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week. As Carrie noted, we have a lot of end of the year events are kind of kicking in now with field trips and our arts performances as we wrap things up for the school year. So I outlined on my little calendar list for you a number of things that are coming up as we approach the end of the school year. Our acceleration options, planning for that and implementation is well underway. And in fact, we're very close. In the next couple of days, we're going to begin reviewing applications, both for writing across the curriculum, our 8th grade acceleration option, and for seventh graders, which would be this year's current 6th graders, moving into looking to apply to take an 8th grade ELA class. So we're beginning to had a 2-part process for both applications, a short questionnaire and then a longer writing piece. And then, of course, we're using teacher recommendations, NWEA scores, grade reports, those types of things to include in the student application. Tomorrow's early release day, we're looking at continuing on with our schedule development for next year. That's well underway. And that work includes planning for acceleration options and developing student groups and rosters. So we'll look to continue on with that work tomorrow with the goal of completing that before the end of school. We're well into our spring assessment calendar. I'm very pleased to note that we successfully completed the reading and mathematics assessment last week with students in grade 6-8. That was a new format. It was still the NWEA assessment, but it was a new format. So there was a little bit of jitters on my part going in because we're trying out a new system and for the very first time. But hats off to Jason and his staff for helping us with the advanced preparation and again, another good collaborative effort by OMS staff, making that run smoothly. We still have to complete some makeups, a number of makeups in the next couple of weeks. And our NWEA language use test was scheduled for today, but that's back on the burner as we'll have to reschedule that one for a later time. I included our spring athletic numbers tonight. We have 36 at baseball, 24 softball, and 34 track and field. Pretty good numbers. And that season is well underway. We've had a number of games and meets already taking place. And that's my report for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I got one comment there too. I just want to thank Richard and his teachers for, kind of a push to provide increased acceleration options for students at the middle school. I mean, this is obviously not a new thing. There's a staff member who started that push in math a number of years ago, and that's been pretty successful, I would say, but now we're expanding it out beyond. And I just think that's great. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would second that. I've had tons of positive feedback from the parent community, so. Anything else? Go ahead with the high school. Meredith or Sam?
Hi. Yeah, hi, guys. I appreciate you allowing me to be remote this evening. Really means a lot. But I do miss seeing my partner in crime on the screen. So hey, Meredith. But I will start with I want to highlight a few things in my report that kind of echo some of the things that have already been said. But us too at the high school, May is extremely exciting, extremely fast, and a whirlwind of a lot of great, wonderful things happening. Most months are, but it seems like May is really a culmination of the year and an opportunity to finish strong and really celebrate everything that has been accomplished all year long in the last few athletic events, art activities, and performances. So certainly we have a lot going on, a lot of great fundraisers, a lot of great trips. And we just encourage people to keep an eye on the weekend preview because we certainly work very hard to keep that as informed and updated, as well as the activities calendar, so that people can participate and be a part of what's going on at the high school. Additionally, I know I've said this before, but the awards committee has continued to meet. We did take this week off. We are meeting next week, but this committee has been amazing. Recently, we worked with our performing arts folks to find and create awards that were equitable to those that have been provided to athletes over the years, and we're rolling those out this spring. The nominations were collected and then they were voted upon by the performing arts co-curricular staff, and already we know who's getting what and the orders have been made. Additionally, we are doing a Iron equivalent to the Iron Red Riot Athletic Award will be an Iron Red Riot Artist Award, where any student who has participated in 3 artist activities in the co-curricular realm with an 85 or above as an average will be able to get this award. And furthermore, we have rebranded. So in a way that our previous Senior of the Year award is now called Graduate of the Year award. And it's not only rebranded in name, but has specifics as to how a student or why a student should be nominated. More specifics on how it can be voted upon to ensure that we, as a staff, are selecting the student that we feel from the graduating senior class is most, deserves that award. Voting is happening this week. Today, put a little wrinkle in it, but I'm going to work with Ms. Clark, who's on the committee, to get that out tomorrow. But I just want to say again, shout out to those on the committee, which is Heather Holmes, Shauna Goodall, Kathy Van Dolman, Heidi Clark, and myself. Just the work we've done with our staff and support from them and input from them and others has just been amazing, and real proud of the award process we've got out there. Our goals for next year are to get transparent with them and clean up our templates a little bit and then put them on the website so that the community members can see how a student is nominated, earns, and then is recipient of an award. Our families recently, this past Monday, were able to look at Q4 report cards on PowerSchool. As I've mentioned before, we've gone electronic and as much as we can as far as communication. I have found that that's been very beneficial with the truancy and chronic absent letters that I am responsible for. I actually have had improved communication with families by doing that electronically versus sending a letter. And we're also saving trees, which is always good. And so same with the grade reports, we haven't had many concerns or complaints or people reaching out saying they can't access their students' grades, but we continue to make ourselves available to help anyone who needs that assistance to be able to do that or does prefer to get a paper copy. And finally, unlike Richard, who did it first, which I respect and understand, but I do also want to say thank you to everyone at our school. We do have a teacher, not a teacher appreciation week. We do a staff appreciation week. We take the opportunity to celebrate everything for some reason. Okay, there we go. To celebrate everybody that works in our school, to serve our students in any of the capacities and roles they play. And I've had the privilege being at the school for 9 years to see that the way in which staff are recognized grow. And I just a huge shout out to the advisors of each grade level class who choose a day and work together to do something special for the teachers, as well as we, for the first time in many years, have parents group that is interested in celebrating our staff as well and have organized a day. And we also have many gift card donations and things for drawings that we do throughout the week. So I just hope people know, not only through the gifts and generous food donations and yummy goods of this week, but just know in general that we truly appreciate everybody in our building and everything that everybody does. So thank you from all of us. Meredith?
On the academic side of things, we are well on the way to having our master schedule built in time to get to students their schedules for next year, which sort of has a ripple effect in that if students arrive to school before things are resolved completely, then we end up with an interim window where things are being figured out and essentially 2 weeks of learning is compromised by movement in and out of classes. I imagine that many of you can empathize with that, but by having our master schedule done and students assigned and students communicated to and families communicated to about their schedules before the end of the year, our hope is that we can have as the primary add drop window the first 2 weeks of summer that would allow us to really firm things up and hopefully hit the ground with consistency once the school year begins. I don't know if you've heard the quote, leap and the net will appear. That was sort of the spirit of our having so many new courses proposed for next year, in that given the intimacy of our size, we may bump up against some barriers for implementing all of the new opportunities for kids that had been approved by the curriculum committee. And while there are some classes that won't run simply because of a lack of student request, we have had resounding response to the variety of math offerings for next year, which is exciting for many reasons. But thanks to the hard work of Troy and Holly and Heidi in the school counseling office, looks like all of those are going to be able to run, which involves a coordination, not only of teacher schedules and, many of the teachers in the math department next year having more preps than they've had in a typical year, but also an aligning of the other classes requested by students who have requested those Singleton math classes. So that I think, this is a really exciting time for the math department at OHS. This aligns with the curriculum work that Susan Smith is supporting for our math department. And I am really excited about all of that. We have what would normally be 2 weeks of AP testing is now solidly 3+ for a couple of reasons. Before today, we had 3 sessions that were scheduled for next week. One of them was a whole class session that had been moved because of a conflict with another course. And then 2 makeup sessions for groups of students who had conflicts. But today was our day for AP Lang and AP Physics. AP Lang is our largest enrolled AP class. And so rescheduling today's 2 classes has also meant having to push some of the students who had been in the Spanish language full class makeup session scheduled for next week, scheduling them into a 3rd week because of the fact that the duration of the AP Lang exam precludes students from doing a morning and an afternoon exam in the same day. So this means that by the time we finish AP testing this year, students, our school counseling office will have been running tests for 24 days, which is an anomaly, and it's a huge lift. And so I just want to give kudos to our school counseling office for that as well. We are this Thursday and Friday going to be running our first administration of the 10th grade Maine through year assessment alongside our 9th and 11th grade MWIA assessments. Susan has also been super helpful with this, so I want to give props to her for her support, especially because this is going to be our first time of having discrete guidance for one of the grades, right? Doing 9 through 11 as the NWEA meant that proctor training was the same, protocols were the same across all grades. This year, 10th grade is different. And so that has been an additional lift. Before that, tomorrow during our early release time, we have a lot of really targeted work happening in different departments that is responsive to ongoing discussions elsewhere in our planning. In addition to the health, to the curriculum work in the math and health departments, we have a continued conversation about composition instruction, 9th and 10th grade English. This builds on the portfolio model used for first semester English 9 that led to acceleration for students who opted into moving out of the second semester of English 9 and directly into expository writing. We are doing continued work on that in anticipation also of participating in the reading of portfolios for the 8th grade accelerated writing across the curriculum class. We're going to be talking about vertical planning, K-12 in world languages. And then recently, we have spotlighted the conversation about grading and grading practices in the department head, in our most recent department head meeting. And department heads not working on some of these other areas are going to bring some of the thoughts back to their departments about how we can develop common approaches to grading and assessment in our departments. And lastly, we've had a shift from the DOE and how the Maine Seal of Biliteracy is administered and awarded. And Chris Crocker has accepted the role of biliteracy coordinator for us, which essentially amounts to ensuring that all eligible students complete the exam. Their results are calibrated in a way that allows for one makeup for students who fall short in a particular area.
And I don't have the statistic or the percentage for us today, but the percentage at which students in this building pass that added criteria that earns them the seal for biliteracy is above 80%. I'll have that more precise next time, but I think that that is a huge accomplishment for our world language department. And I look forward to congratulating those students at graduation.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? Marissa's first.
Sorry, I had a lot of friends who took the Apple and biliteracy testing, and though it was challenging, they all felt it was super rewarding, and I'm glad you shouted that out.
Noah, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess I had some thoughts, and it's sort of following up a little bit on, you know, maybe some of the stuff you guys were talking about with the awards and the curricular planning. And also I've been thinking about, like, the last time there was the data presentation, we had the conversation about active learning and project-based learning. And I guess I've been sort of thinking about that a little bit and just sort of wondering, and maybe, I don't know who, I'm still like, I still feel in the dark about who's doing what work where, and like who is the right person to ask this about, and whether the curriculum committee is working on it or you're working on it. But sort of the question about, like, where are the barriers and the progress potentially to sort of getting active learning approaches. And I guess I just want to sort of say that, you know, in the last couple of weeks, you know, it was the end of the semester for us, and I got to reflect a little bit on a class that I taught last year and this year, same class, but last year it was like the desks all faced forward, and it was, you know, I'd come into class and the students would be waiting for me to speak, and it'd be quiet and I'd start talking. And then this year I was in a classroom where the students all faced each other, and I would come in and I couldn't start the class because they were all just like chattering and like talking to each other, and I had to like settle them down. And to me, that was like, you know, it's because it's an active learning sort of classroom. And to me, that like inability to start the class is a huge success, because the students like come in like chatting with their friends and really excited to be there and like forming these social connections. And like they loved the course this time much more than last time, because I think it was this social fabric that got built into it. And I attribute that in part to just that sort of spatial arrangement. And so I guess my question, you know, I think like, you know, this idea of like forming the social fabric of a community by like setting up these active learning environments can be way potentially more effective than hiring therapists and all these other things we need to do to solve our social emotional problems. So I guess I'm just sort of wondering, like, you know, is there any movement on this, or what is the barriers, or where do things stand with moving in that direction?
No, I'm just going to propose, I think it's a good question. I think maybe putting our principals on the spotlight right now on that particular question.
That's fine. Yeah. I don't need to have an answer now, but maybe
come back and push that topic forward.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Kevin?
I was just gonna ask, you know, I'd love to hear the progress of the reflections on grading and assessment as they go forward. I'd be really interested in what happens.
We can absolutely provide that. We had a piece, something that we did last year. Shauna Goodall led an opt-in book study on grading for equity. And that was a book study that I can't remember exactly, but I want to say pulled in roughly 15 to 20 teachers. And for those participants, it was a particularly impactful inquiry because of the way in which it not only talked about the impacts of grading in a hypothetical way, but that modeled, you know, if you make the following choices for your assessments, same assessments, but in terms of how they're graded, this is the impact on the student through this method, and this is the impact on the student in this method. And teachers found it really impactful. Many of the department heads were on that. And so that really is the place at which we're beginning. So if it's a topic that you're interested in, you know, we have plenty of copies of that book. We can, you know, lend you one and you can sort of, you know, onboard in that way. And then that is the frame for the beginning of the conversation, with the acknowledgement that as an opt-in opportunity, the majority of our faculty have not read it. So then the question becomes, you know, how can we still use this as the axis with folks for whom the content will be new? But yeah, no, I look forward to that conversation as well.
No, thanks. Yeah, I would love to borrow a copy over the summer if it's possible.
Yeah, no, we can definitely get you one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Kind of in the same vein, I appreciate the proactiveness about awareness in general. But I know that's a topic that we're not going to make 100% of people happy no matter what we do, but just appreciate the fact that that was really embraced as an opportunity to, be thoughtful and reflective about our processes and our goals and our outcomes, but it obviously has strong connections to, the DEI work we're doing too. So appreciative of that. Any other questions or comments? We'll go ahead. I am kind of trying to move us on a little bit tonight because I know it's gonna be a long meeting. We'll go ahead to the superintendent's report.
I have a couple of items to update you on outside of the remainder of the agenda items. First of all, the item listed, the instructional technology stakeholder survey. This is the almost the culmination point of work that's been happening for several years on technology integration and trying to be thoughtful about how and when students are experiencing and having formal acquisition of specific technology skills. And the tech committee has designed, a method to really work through a process with faculty, and have gotten the document. There are really two documents, the standards, and I'm forgetting the other words, Susan. Statements and expectations.
Yeah, the statements about how technology is used and our expectations. So our technology use statements and expectations, and then the grade level standards. Grade level.
And so the grade level standards are sometimes called the scope and sequence, where, it's the big matrix of these are all the standards and these are the grade levels that something is going to be introduced. And then where mastery should happen. And so we're at the point where we want to give a formal opportunity for some feedback. And we're going to do that like we did our DEI action plan, and give folks a bit of information. It's dense information. So we're trying to present it in a way that explains it a bit and then gives people the opportunity to go and kind of look at these documents and then provide some feedback through the use of a form. We're planning to have staff, obviously, once again, give feedback, but also families give feedback on those documents so that we can take that feedback into consideration for one last kind of review before we bring that document to you for review and approval as a curriculum document around how we are being purposeful with instructional technology. And I'm not aware that we've had a document like that in this district. I don't know, Shauna may recall, she's been keenly involved in this work for a long time here, and Deb Bishop maybe, and Deb White, I see her on the call. Some of those folks may be able to tell me if I'm incorrect here. I'm not sure we've had a document like this in this district. Yeah, Shauna's saying no. It really, I think came up pre-COVID, when we were talking, hearing some folks concerned about screen time, and we just didn't have any kind of guidance. And I think staff have been doing great work, but it's not been using kind of an overall scheme for what we hope to make sure students were equipped with when they left RSU 26 schools and had all these great opportunities to use technology in really powerful and purposeful ways. So the stakeholder feedback process is coming up, and we wanted to let you know a little bit more about that and what we're doing and why we're doing it. Susan, would you add anything to that?
I would just add that we're excited to be at this point, and I know that lots of work has gone into these documents, and I'd really like to thank particularly Shauna for getting that work started and organized in a way that really, I think, balances the international standards for technology and the research around that, as well as incorporating the professional expertise of our teachers who have put a lot of thought and effort in that. So Deb Bishop and Deb White are here tonight too. They've been really instrumental in this set of documents. It's really based on values and expectations, and then how to help kids reach those expectations while making sure that we remain true to those values. So we're ready for some feedback and some critical review and to make sure that our work is good and that it can be the best that we can make it for kids.
Our plan is to solicit this feedback this month. And then to use that feedback and then bring something back to the board early fall. Also just want to speak for a moment about the security cancellation today. I sent out the email. Everyone, I'm sure, has had a chance to read it at this point. And unfortunately, I know it's rather unsatisfying or for people not to be able to know more, right? People understandably would like to have more details, to have kind of more assurance about, the safety of coming back to school. And what I can say is, I often feel that in these times, I have to limit what I can say because of confidentiality. And I know that it's frustrating for folks. And what I would say is that, through strong collaboration with law enforcement partners, with our own threat assessment team, we would not bring students back to school if we didn't feel it was safe. And we've tried to be really thoughtful about bringing back staff and students in a way that will help people feel comfortable, because we know that these kinds of incidents raise anxiety levels for a lot of people because of the world we live in, right? And what you see so often on the news. And so we're trying to just take some extra steps tomorrow just to help people with that transition back in the building. And then, have a gradual release of those over the course of the week as people, come back in and feel kind of that sense of normalcy in their day and feel some comfort with that. And, as I said in the email and as, our friends up down the hill at OPD said, which we were so appreciative of their partnership, today really was out of an abundance of caution and the timing of what information we had and when we had to make decisions and why the decision was made kind of late. We were trying to wait to see if we could get enough information to maybe not have to make a call that we made. But in the end, we did not and felt like that was the decision that we needed to make. And so, we, as Carrie said in her report, Lisa did a great job. I read, the document she sent this out to staff, just some great, helpful tips for dealing with students and recognizing that, there are different age appropriate conversations, that you would have or not have, or in the way you have them with students returning back. So really appreciative of the professionalism and the dedication of, all who were involved today. And when we had staff meetings just to kind of process with staff, we had a wonderful turnout at all of those meetings in all schools. So staff were really, wanting to, find out what they needed to find out for making tomorrow successful. And, we're going to talk a little bit more in executive session later in the meeting. So I think that's all at this point, unless you have any questions that we can discuss publicly.
Always grateful for an abundance of caution.
Right, yeah. And I heard from, parents today who were appreciative of that. And, I understand that it can be difficult to have to regroup, especially, you expect winter weather to come, right? You see the forecast, but you don't expect something like today. So I know it's difficult and I just, we don't take these decisions lightly, but they have to be made sometimes. Okay. Shall we go on to the canoe team?
On to discussion, canoe team equipment.
Yeah, so I appreciated the comments that Emily added earlier in the meeting. I heard from another parent who had, very similar comments, submitted those to me via email. And we talked a little bit last meeting about canoe team, and maybe it was 2 meetings ago. In my head, it's a little blurry. I think it's 2 meetings ago we talked about it. And that we weren't going to have a team and why. And I think that we needed to internally have some better communication, which we've since had, to really figure out what the right next step was. And we have about a little over $20,000 worth of equipment. It would cost more than that to replace it. So, you know, the replacement value, I don't have that, but it's worth about 20,000 right now, we estimated. That has, you know, been amassed over time to build the program, and I appreciated the comments that both Emily and the person who emailed me said about Jeff and what he provided and built in that program and the experience he offered to students here that was truly unique. And I think that it will be difficult to find someone who can do what Jeff did. But one thing that, you know, was presented to me when Mike Archer, Jeff Owen and I met last was that, you know, we need to be open to all possibilities for how we might provide a similar experience, whether it's a team competitive experience or whether it's something different. Finding someone who has the proper credential certifications required for being on the water is kind of the key element in continuing that. But, you know, I think there's more optimism than I was hearing initially when we were engaged in some conversations about whether or not we could find someone to help move the program forward in the next year or so. And at any rate, you know, holding on to the equipment is something that is our recommendation now, after, you know, further conversation and consideration of what might be possible. And so I bring you that update, and just to let you know that, you know, that's our consensus internally. And I think we have a great group of, you know, parents who are really enthusiastic about helping us find solutions and being a part of solutions. And that's really great as well, to be able to potentially tap into some of that to help us as we try to find potential solutions moving forward. So that's really the update, and I kind of charged Mike with keeping the ball rolling on you know, finding potential solutions and networking, reaching out to people who, you know, express, you know, potential ideas to him, to keep looking for someone who might be able to pick up the paddle and keep the canoe going downstream. Yeah.
The bad one.
Any questions or feedback about that?
What does it cost to get the qualifications or certifications to do that sort of coaching?
Back up one more step.
Oh, sure.
What, along the same lines, what is the actual certificate needed?
You need to be a main guide.
Well, there's something,
They're short of that.
yeah, there's something short of that that they've created that's a step shy of being a main guide. That is, I think, a couple of weekends investment of time and training and passing a test. And I don't have the name in my head right now, but I can get it for you and send it to you. Maybe Emily, who's on the call, has that in her head. Maybe she can help me remember. But
Oh, I see it.
Sorry, Meredith. It's called the Educational Trip Leader Permit,
thank you. Thank
and
you.
I'm not sure what the cost is.
Yeah, I'm not either, and I think that they do offer classes. I think Jeff said that there was someone up in the county who was organizing classes, that was someone Mike was gonna reach out to, but I think it's less about that aspect from what I've learned, and more that people who have this kind of skill set and interest are often busy on weekends doing, you know, private work. And so it really would need to be someone who is passionate about perhaps, you know, this type of program, because it requires during the week time. If we're gonna be competing, it requires on the weekends time as well. So, you know, I think being open to all possibilities, but a main guy would be great, but there's this other credential that is less time consuming, that is, you know, something that we could use, someone could have to be able to carry the program forward.
So if there's people who may know someone who's interested, should they have that individual just contact Mike?
Yes, yeah, that'd be great. So Kevin, your question was how much it costs?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know that either.
$20.
Did you just look at
We
that?
looked
That's
it up, yeah.
awesome.
For the test is the.
Probably the
training?
test.
For the
Yeah.
certification, it is a $20 fee for a 5-year permit.
I'm sure
Then
the course costs something though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a rules listed that need to be implemented. It's on the main legislator website if you're interested in doing some personal research.
What, so like, what is this? I'm confused. What is the requirement in order to have, what are we, like, is to have a canoe team or like to,
So we've had a canoe team for, I don't know, 8 or 10 years.
yeah,
Been slowly building over time to what it, had become. And so for someone to be the leader of this group and to take students out on, open water, they have to have this credential and
In order-
Sorry?
sorry, I didn't interrupt you. I guess just in order to take any students out on canoes or as part of a particular like
To
team.
be from a government entity, like as a school or as a, if you're a parent taking a couple of kids that are your kids' friends out on that's not what it's for people who are associated with government entities.
So, yeah, so there's no scenario of just like having any sort of recreational, taking kids from our school out in canoes in any sort of sense. You need to have somebody with this certification.
Yes.
If it's school sponsored and official.
Okay.
Yes, for example, we have some groups that do some, like a whitewater trip, but they have a main guide with them on that trip. But this is a different kind of experience. It's ongoing practices during the week and.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's like informal ways students could borrow canoes or something as a non-school sponsored thing or something like, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely support like the idea of holding on to this equipment that we have until forever and until we can figure something out.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure our insurance company would have something to say about your suggestion, but I think the consensus of trying to make this work is pretty strong.
Yeah. So I'm sensing around the room that everyone's in supportive of that.
Yeah.
Okay, super. Thank you, Emily, for your
And
comment.
in line with Kevin's comments too, I mean, if there were someone who we were otherwise be interested in, but didn't have that training, but was interested in pursuing it, I'd at least be willing to have a conversation about covering the cost of the course. So, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
You.
Next up, we have hiring recommendations, starting with co-curriculars. I would make a motion to approve the slate of co-curriculars as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
So just to read them, the OHS Student Ambassador Program, Emily Francis, OMS Student Ambassador Program, Peter Buhner, ASA Student Ambassador Program, Lisa Earhart. This is a new program. Sam, you want to just briefly tell us what student ambassadors are doing?
Sure, sorry, I couldn't find the mute button. Yeah, so the student ambassador idea originated from our larger DEI team. But then was a focus of the student and family welcoming committee. And the intention is for each level school, so at ASA, at OMS, and at OHS, for a group of students to work with this advisor to not only participate in things like the first day of school. And we at the high school, for example, have 9th graders. We've always had students come and help welcome them and help them open the locker, because that's usually very tricky for them. But help them move around the school, answer any questions, just be a student voice and a smiling face on that first day of school. We've utilized students in those capacities too, for like open houses and step up day. So those are some of the regular examples, but also to bridge beyond that to organizing events throughout the district for families and students who are new. Like such an example might be a sledding night where they can get to know each other and get to know other students and other families within our district to help them welcome them into the overall Orono community at large, not just the individual classes and teachers that they see every day or the activities in which they choose to participate in. And so these students, this group would help to put welcoming bags together, which would include needed information that these families and students have helped us to identify that would be good for them to know and have at their fingertips to be successful and to feel welcomed. and a part of our district and schools. So these students are the next step after you approving of these 3 advisors is each advisor will consider a way in which they're going to gather the students that are going to work with them next year. And then there'll be some sort of training and bonding between them. And then over the year, the program will develop, hopefully to being a really robust presence in our schools, to help on a daily, these students and families who move into the district, but also help with our overall tier 1 interventions of welcoming all kids into the schools. What's kind of exciting, but also a little terrifying, as Meredith Higgins likes to say, we're building the bike as we're riding it. But that's exciting because we can use these advisors, we can use the students, we can use the committee, and really get this off the road and have a huge success where we're giving students leadership roles and mentoring roles that can engage all students in our school.
Great, thank you. Just a good example. I mean, sometimes you adopt something like a DEI plan and then people wonder if anything's actually happening or if it was just a plan, but there actually, we'll have a chance, I think, to report on this at the next board meeting. There's actually a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes, but this is just one great example. Any other questions or comments before we vote? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Next up is an executive session under 1 MRS. I'd make a motion to go into executive session under 1 MRSA 4056A, appointment of officials and employees. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the executive session. We'll go ahead and vote. Noah,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. We will be stepping out of the room. This will not be super short. Best guess might be 15 minutes, maybe a little longer, maybe 20. So apologies, but some important business if you look at the agenda, so.
Brian, do you think we should leave the Zoom or can we leave it on our computer?
I just turned my camera off and.
I'm gonna take mine because we have a couple joining us, but I'll just do it on my computer.
And that's gonna be on Google Meets or something.
Yeah.
So we can leave this Zoom.
Leave this here.
Yeah. I'm just gonna sign.
You're unmuted.
All right, so we're back out of executive session at 5:08. So next up, we have reappointment of probationary teachers. I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign one-year contracts with all of the first probationary going to second probationary teachers. Is there a second?
I will second.
And just to read their names, because they all, put in a hard year's worth of work. Lindsay Ruggieri, pre-K at ASA, Molly Priest, Coral, across schools. BJ Bowden, across schools. Rose Pompey, across schools. Sierra Towers at ASA, Carly Pete at ASA, and Alec McGaw at OHS. Is there any discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah.
Aye.
Jake. Aye. Kevin. Aye. Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. I would make a motion to approve the superintendent to sign continuing contracts with all of the teachers on the slate going from second to continuing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And again, to read names, Castine Grant at ASA, Rochelle Bohm at OHS, Katie Quirk at OHS OMS, Emily Francis at OHS, and Jennifer Mahoney at ASA OMS. Any discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah.
Aye.
Jake.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Congratulations to any of you who are on the Zoom. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Approval of budget warrant articles. So you all have seen the budget. You have the articles in front of you, and I have to read this motion to make the lawyers happy. So. Oh, a lot of papers.
It's just the front page.
Right, I know, just the,
Yeah,
I think I only have to read the motion at the top. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure. Yeah, there's about 10 pages attached to this. So I would move that the vote entitled, vote to call and approve the warrants for the budget meeting and the budget validation referendum, and to authorize the notice of amounts adopted, be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that a copy of said vote be included with the minutes of this meeting. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion or questions? Just to be clear for people, we've spent the last 2 months, 3 months really, talking about the budget. It was a pretty tough budget year. I think we came out with a pretty fair budget, given the circumstances we were handed, and that's what's represented. And we are now making the warrant article, official passing of the election to the annual budget meeting, which I'll put in my plug, is May 23rd. Please come at 6 p.m. Do we have a location yet, or are we still checking?
the pack.
It'll be in the pack. And then it goes to the citizens for a vote on June 13th. So please show up and vote.
And there is childcare.
And there will be childcare at the May 23rd meeting. I always put in the plug, it's good New England democracy, chance to talk to your neighbors for an hour, learn about the schools, good time all around. Nobody believes me, but I've actually never had somebody who did believe me and show up say, no, you were wrong. They all said, yeah, you're right, it was kind of fun. So, but the word is not getting fast. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah? I think we have to do it verbally, unfortunately, especially since this is a really,
Can you not hear me?
no, I only saw,
Yeah, I said aye. I don't know if you can hear me now, but
we can hear you now. We got
Okay.
that. Jake? Aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we, before we go into executive sessions, do the signing? So
Yeah.
we can make sure we do it all right.
You can double check us.
Yeah, just make sure I don't.
That's this for good reason. I've had my pen in the wrong location more than once. Okay, next up is the ASA HVAC engineering proposal. You want to introduce that?
Yes, you may recall that we have decided, brought to you a report that we have moved in a new direction with our ASA HVAC upgrade, and have been working with Haley Ward now that we have pivoted. And this is the proposal for engineering services. And we've had a couple of meetings on this topic, and this is, you know, an all-in price from, you know, design, to creating the, you know, construction documents, to assisting us with the bid process, and then construction, oversight administration, which is, you know, an important part of the work as well. And the lump sum project you can see there is 35,000, which we, feel based on our, you know, experience with looking at these from a variety of other projects we have going is, you know, a reasonable price, but because they were, we bring it to you to ask authorization for me to sign to move forward with this.
I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the contract with Haley Ward as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
And just as a reminder, this is primarily being paid with our ESSER 3 funds.
Yeah, I would just second the conversations we had with the first contractor, and this is kind of night and day in terms of being a true dialogue and back and forth and things. So any other discussion or questions? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah.
Aye.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We did, we heard it.
I think so. I heard an aye.
Okay.
Okay, Jake.
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
I also vote aye. I know we're at 8 o'clock. I think this might be of interest to the student reps though, so you're welcome to go, but you're welcome to stick around for as much as you want.
Obviously, today was a school cancellation day, and we have two choices before us at this really juncture of the year. We can add a date to the school year. We certainly had some left in our calendar, though. It's the time of year that we've really already kind of put our flag in the sand and said, this is the last day of year. We've made, you know, lots of plans based on that. And so I would like to request that we go the waiver route and request a waiver of 1 day from the required number of school days to the Department of Education for this day, in light of the circumstances of the cancellation and the fact that it's so late that, you know, we already have done, you know, lots of planning around events and activities and schedules for the end of school year. And this requires board approval for me to request this.
I'm trying to remember the actual execution is I have to sign the letter. Do you remember that? correctly?
There's an online form that they sent me, so when I go into it, I'll see if it requires you to upload a letter or anything. It might be the minutes of the meeting. I need to go and look and see exactly what it is we have to upload, but this is the first step.
Okay, I'll just word it properly and make a motion to authorize the superintendent and the chair of the board to take actions to request the Department of Education to waive a day of education for 5/9/23, i.e. today's school day. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I'm assuming you think the odds are pretty good. That it'll be granted.
I think the odds are pretty good.
Is there precedent with like that this happened with other districts and they've been granted? Okay.
Yeah,
I think it happened
and it
in this
happened,
district.
well, it happened with us around this,
Yeah.
a similar incident where we canceled school for safety threat. And then also with the flooding.
Any other questions or discussion?
How long does it take to get the approval of this?
This time of year, they'll probably be really quick with it. I reached out to the deputy commissioner today and he, you know, sent me the link and said they would, you know, handle it as soon as I could get it in. So, and I think we would just let the school community know, because I had a couple of questions about that today. Let them know that we've requested a waiver in hopes that this day can be waived. And so the tentative last day is now the 13th. If it's not approved, then it would have to be the 14th.
Any other discussion? We'll go ahead and vote. Noah,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Sarah, I went out of order. Kevin?
Aye.
I also vote aye. So we're on to subcommittee reports. Policy subcommittee. It did make it through the 4 or 5 policies. We have 1 or 2 that are coming forward and we have to go back and finish up one of the J policies, and I think we'll revisit in light of the recent court case, one of the B policies about public comment. I mean, I'll just Yeah, I'll go ahead and briefly update the board on that context about so we have in our policy, as do most districts in the state, a statement and a public comment. You cannot criticize individual employees. That comes out of multiple laws protecting the privacy of employees. And there's been, it's never, that conflicts with the First Amendment right to speak, right? And especially since we're a government body, First Amendment rights are strong. Different states have decided this differently. It's been back and forth, and I've been in a total, we have that in our policy, I've been in a quandary about whether it was enforceable in the state of Maine. This is not a final judgment, but there was a preliminary injunction involving an individual in a nearby district upholding that policy. So that's the good news. The bad news is that the policy has to be content neutral, which means if we're going to prohibit discussion of employees, we have to prohibit discussion of employees, whether it's positive or negative. So technically, I had kind of said, you know, that's not a big deal because unfortunately nobody shows up with public comment to make positive praising comments. And then we had one tonight and I was sitting there thinking, you know, this is something I would have to stop. So I think, however, the concern of the teachers is pretty strong. In fact, I know I've had conversations with individual teachers about the cases in some nearby districts. It's just abhorrent the way people are being singled out in a very unprofessional and unfair and unreasonable and ad hominem and attacking manner. So unfortunately, I think the balance of not having positive public comment or the balance of having public comment is outweighed by the balance of needing to have a content neutral policy that lets us prohibit negative comments. But be open to any quick thoughts on that, and then the policy committees can make sure we have our I's dotted and T's crossed on that going forward. Any thoughts on that?
Susan and I attended it's actually a webinar that Susan ran last week on thorny legal issues for participants in this region. And this issue came up, and one of the nuances that was noted was that in lieu of using the specific name of somebody, you could reference, you know, the first grade team or the coaching staff, and still be able to make positive commentary without violations. So that's just one possibility.
Yeah, you can make generic comments as long as it doesn't trace down to one person. Right, you can't say the principal of school X, but you can make a generic comment about the admin team, the coaching team. The other thing is it only affects public comment. So it doesn't affect what we can do, acknowledgements, report, principal reports, superintendent reports.
So I could have called out the middle school teachers who were advancing acceleration point rather than couching the language.
Yeah,
That was during a question during a principal.
correct. It only affects public comment.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not hearing anybody disagree with me that that's how we should proceed.
I
So
think we have to. I mean, like you said, that the times when someone shows up during public comment to praise are far fewer than the times when people show up at public comment to criticize. So
So wait, sorry, I missed, but this is only the public comment, like this pertains to your thing.
correct.
And so if somebody does start to mention a particular name, then like we just stop them? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I would have to interrupt. And, you know, potentially, if it's the individual in the court case, they probably would ignore me and we'd have to adjourn and call the police to have the person removed. But that would be an extreme case that we're going to extremely knock on wood doesn't happen here. But in a normal, reasonable case, I just have to interrupt and redirect to how they could say what they want to say. You know, in a way that meets the policy.
As an excellent, what Meredith, what you had told us about how you can't use the specific name, but you can kind of use generalities. That's gonna cut both ways though, right? Like the public comment can be negative that way to the point where you're not saying the name, but everybody who's listening knows who you're talking about.
Well, I mean, that's where I have to make judgment. If it narrows down to an individual, I have to stop it. If it's broad enough to cover, let's say 3 or more people, I would probably, I mean, we can write our policy, be clear, but that would be my thought. If it's 3 or more people, we have to let it, yes, it has to be content neutral, so it could be negative or positive. Yeah.
we're worried about the exercising of judgment, but be very careful. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you get called on it.
Oh, we get sued
All right.
as one of our,
If it's that person.
yeah, I went to, at MSMA, I went to a whole session. I mean, this is a topic everybody's getting training on right now because it's happening, but I went to a session at MSMA and, one of the lawyers, who's a lawyer we talked to, said, sometimes it's worth getting sued.
I don't disagree with that.
I would have to do that too. So-
So have we had this as a problem in our district? You said in other districts it has, but-
No, but in two districts that border or come very close to bordering on our district, it's been a serious problem.
I guess, yeah, I guess I just wonder, I mean, I'm a little hesitant to endorse that kind of move and
Well, if we do it post hoc, it's gonna be problematic legally. Right, if it looks like we're trying to shut somebody down,
There needs to be precedent.
there has to be precedent, it has to be in the court case, they looked at multiple board meetings and watched whether this was enforced consistently or not.
but you could make the policy, you're saying if it comes up in one meeting and then like later on we could pass a policy, are you
I
saying
think-
within that meeting?
It started causing problems and then we passed the policy, it would not,
That would be problematic.
yeah.
It's better to have it on the books before there's a problem. The courts will treat it differently if it's on the books before there's a problem, rather than if something happens and then we pass it.
I don't know. I guess I don't feel comfortable doing it, but
I can tell you with conversations from teachers, they're extremely worried about it, even though it has, because they have colleagues that are being singled out.
Mhm.
So I kind of feel, I agree, I'm kind of a First Amendment person and I you know. But we have an obligation to teachers. They have a constitutional right to privacy. There's conflicting, these are both constitutional rights, First Amendment right and 14th Amendment right. And we have obligations to our teachers and they feel pretty strongly. Having had conversations with teachers, I couldn't feel comfortable not doing it.
Some of these teachers that have been singled out in other districts have had to seek psychiatric help. Some of them have had to go on leave. So it's caused problems for their careers. I mean, there's been some pretty serious implications for some of these teachers because some of the personal attacks have been of that nature.
I think there will likely be recommended new policy language. Are you thinking we're gonna wait on fall policy update? or-
I looked at our policy, the EDH, I think it's okay, but I was gonna suggest we get a quick consult on the language we have before. I agree we should wait for the fall, but I think we should also make sure that our current policy.
I would agree with both of those.
So that was a bit more discussion than we usually have in the reports, but UTC.
Not much to say, numbers are high, kids are doing great. They're thinking long-term about ways to, expand the facility, get but nothing particular.
When's your dinner?
It's in the winter, so it's the ways away.
Over. It's not too late for you to get the sleep.
Checking in.
We locked them in. We've locked them in for the dinner.
Yeah, we're looking for now.
Spruce,
We have a meeting Thursday night at 6.
curriculum subcommittee has a meeting this week, I think, yeah. Facilities and building, you saw the main action. We're in the throes of trying to get warranty enforcement on some of the things remaining in the original construction project. And including getting an update on the schedule on the track, but no updates at the moment.
Can either of you or Bill, remind me when sod is going down on the
That's
football field?
what we're working on right now with them, Mark, trying to get them narrowed down to when they're gonna be here.
Okay. It's gonna be this month, all right?
The window we told them was after May 22nd.
Right.
The track team will be done with it, and we would like to have you in ASAP
May
after that.
23rd.
Well, I think there's more groundwork that has to be done before they can just start laying.
Well, they can get their groundwork started on May 23rd.
Well, we didn't want them to put, yeah, right, that's what we want. We
Right.
want their groundwork to start the Monday after,
You can start as soon.
Our
as
last
that.
Friday meeting on
Then we
Friday.
got truck.
yeah. That's what we want, that's what we agreed
Get
on.
out there and get this.
Yeah.
We have several emails out there right now.
Thank you.
Wellness committee,
Only thing is, so we're working on the outdoor space. Willis Peasley, my kids and I put a whole bunch of giant logs down in there, and we're hoping to get some more wood today with Bill to build picnic tables and things, but everything got messed up. So, working on that front, trying to get that built and put together. So.
Great. DI leadership team, the leadership team's meeting, and I think it's next week, the week after, one of the two. But I know you saw an example tonight with the ambassador program coming forward. All the subcommittees have a lot of work. Maybe next time after the DI leadership, we can try and bring more of that work back.
Yeah, there's a survey happening tomorrow, a staff survey.
That's right.
Came out of your committee.
Survey committee that data committee Kevin and I are on. With Susan and some other people, Carrie is still on. Has a survey for the staff, and we're nearly worked through student and parent surveys. And yeah, I know all the committees are doing SSP stuff, has been student success plans, lots of good stuff happening. But we'll bring a more formal report after we have the DI district-wide committee meeting. Is there any other business? Request for a future agenda item? The floor is open for public comment. Seeing no public comment. Our next meeting is actually the annual budget meeting, May 23rd, 6 p.m. in the PAC. You already heard my plug. Come and have a lot of fun. Next board meeting is May 30th. So when our next board meeting is actually a couple weeks, 3 weeks away. It's 6 p.m. Is there any request for information and follow-up?
See, it's a lot of fun. Valuable. Like, you're making it sound like it's like some carnival. It's not that.
You can get rid of the obligation of your kids for a short period of time.
Well, is there? No.
Yeah.
Childcare.
So we have the option again. All right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, how does the childcare work in terms of getting? We just bring up with kids and.
You can just show up with Shauna Goodall, and the NHS students are prepared. They usually have plenty of help, so.
Okay.
You don't have to make a reservation or anything.
Okay.
And are we being, is that confirmed?
Yeah.
Because I know there was a possible conflict.
Yeah, it's worked out.
It's on the document.
Yeah, it had to be in the document, so we had to get confirmation.
It's on here.
Yeah. Good.
And we're going to sign before we go.
Yeah.
But should we go ahead and take the vote, and then we can sign on the way to?
Okay, so I will make a motion to go into executive session under 1 MRSA 4056B, confidential student matters. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call to go into executive session. Noah?
Aye.
Jake?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Before you go into executive session, sign the papers under Lynn's watchful.
Just stay right there.
Are we going back to the Google Meet or?
So we are, and Noah, you just be able to sign the warrants, but as long as we had 3, we're okay.
Are we gonna come out and go back in?
We're done with business.
Yeah,
We're just gonna stay in there.
Sorry.
we could just stay in here and.
So.
Yeah,